Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313 is back with another one. Stephen Will here, ready to talk some Detroit Lions football. But before we do, you know what it is. Hit that subscribe button if for some odd freaking reason you've been under a rock and this is your first Detroit Den 313 episode, or you just haven't decided to hit that thing yet. Go ahead and do it. It just only takes a second. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you want to reach in those pockets, we do have a members giveaway that's probably going to be coming up here soon because we're inching closer and closer to giving away another helmet. That stuff out of the way. Steve, what the heck is going on at Detroit Den 313 today?
I'm not going to say that I don't already have another helmet to give away. I'm not going to say that I don't, Will. I'm not going to say who. Going to keep it a surprise. But while we're on the subject of helmets, Teresa Ruckel, I need you to get a hold of me. I need you to get this Aiden Hutchinson helmet. There are people demanding that we redraw if you don't contact me. And I'm going to give you some time. I'm in no hurry, but we got to get that shipped out ASAP. So get a hold of me, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you may have to get a hold of me, and we will get that shipped out ASAP. Still waiting. Well, what we're diving into today is some more defense. We're going to talk some more defense. We're going to talk some more Detroit Lions pass rushers, some players that are still out there that can make a difference. I don't want to steal the spotlight. You kind of mentioned him a couple of weeks ago. So who are you thinking the Detroit Lions needs to go out and get?
Steve, look, I'm not even going to mess around today. The bottom line is I want Matthew Judon to be a Detroit Lion. I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to play with it. I know what everybody, not everybody. I know what the naysayers are going to say. And I'm going to say Link. Hey, Terry, let him know. Link, let a naysayer know. Let a naysayer know. Shout out to Terry and Arnold. Listen, Matthew Judon needs to be a Detroit Lion. So if I was sitting on the opposite end of that fence, because Steve, we haven't really talked about it, so I don't know where you sit, but I'm going to talk as a person who's sitting on the opposite end of that fence. He's 32 years old. The production has went down. If you look at last season with the Atlanta Falcons, this was a young man who only had 5.5 sacks. Now, if you think about what the Detroit Lions were, hey, 5.5 extra sacks would have been very lovely for the Detroit Lions, but I don't think that he's a 5.5 sack guy. If you look the year before that, he had the biceps injury and he only had 4 sacks and he didn't play a lot of football. So if you looked at that, he only played 4 games. He had like a Marcus Davenport-esque season, right? And the reason why I'm mentioning that because well, I'll get to that part why I'm mentioning Mr. Davenport because it's absolutely no shade. I love to do it and I'm excited, just as all of the Detroit Lions coaches are excited. But a lot of people are saying that Matthew Judon is on the decline, right? Per the statistics. I think that these people are wrong. Steve, I took today and I did what we do here at Detroit Den 313. I took all 302 pass rush snaps that Matthew Judon had last season with the Atlanta Falcons, and I watched every single one of them. And I came to the conclusion, people are nuts if they think that Matthew Judon should not be a Detroit Lion. Now, I'm going to try to hit all of these bullet points. I've seen on Twitter that he takes plays off. I don't think that he's taking plays off. I think this is a 31-year-old player playing football who understands when he's out of the play completely. He's not taking a play off. I've said this about Aiden Hutchinson, and I'm going to be careful with my words. I'm going to be careful. So please listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Don't just listen to the name. I've said this about Hutch. He worries me sometimes because he has so much hustle. He has so much passion. He has so much relentlessness that it almost comes off as wild sometimes, right? Like he is giving everything in his soul, flailing, diving, doing everything that he can to get to the quarterback. And sometimes it's even on plays. If you're at the football games, especially, you see this. You might not see it on TV, but it's even on plays where there is no way that he is making the play. And I know I'm a coach, so I understand you never know what's going to happen. Somebody could fumble the ball. There could be a turnover. Something could happen. But I'm just talking about when his body's all contorted and he's diving and he's fighting a guy on the backside of a play, and then he's all exhausted. Once you become a veteran in this league, you understand when to exert yourself and when not to. there are moments where you can catch your rest. No different than being a fighter when you walk behind the referee for a second just to catch a little bit of extra break, and then you get back out there and get after. There are savvy moments that veterans learn how to catch a little bit of rest so they're fresh for longer parts in the game. And when you're talking about a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, we need him for as many snaps as possible. So that's what I see out of Matthew Judon. I don't see him taking plays off. I see him being a savvy veteran, knowing when he's out of the play and using that or conserving that energy. So, Steve, there's some more I want to talk about this guy, even the Matthew Davenport or the Marcus Davenport little bullet or whatever. But I'm gonna let you get a little Matt Judon time because I've been monopolizing this thing. How you feeling?
I won't say that he's on the decline. I won't say that he's in his prime. I think he's just in that category of he can come to the Detroit Lions and make an impact. I don't need him to do what he was doing in New England with 15 and a half sacks, 12 and a half sacks. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. It's not what we need. We just need that other guy. You come to Detroit, you're not going to be the main pass rusher. You're probably not going to be the second. If Tyleik Williams plays well, you might not be the third. You might be the fourth guy on the defensive line, and that's what makes the Detroit Lions so scary. If we bring in a guy in like Matthew Judon and we're saying, hey, man, when playoffs come around, if Aleem McNeil's healthy, you might be the third best pass rusher on this team. If Tyleik Williams is playing good football after Thanksgiving, where I think he's going to start really, getting his feet wet and ready and making a major impact, we might be talking Matthew Judon's the third, possibly fourth best pass rusher. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be the top dog. He just needs a running mate. And I'm very, very high on Marcus Davenport this year. If he stays healthy, I have no problems in his gameplay. The question's always just health. I feel like we have to say the same thing over and over and over, and we're just beating a dead horse when it comes to him. Everybody knows the same thing. You can't tell me that he can't play football when he's healthy. The question is he going to stay on the football field? So Judon probably wouldn't be my top choice that's still available. I would still prefer Zadarius Smith, but I mean, that's not anything saying that Matthew Judon's not a very solid consolation prize. I mean, when I just look at, his availability, I think that's like the first checkbox I have to look at. He's only missed significant time in his career one time in 2023 with that injury you mentioned earlier. Other than that, he's played 14 games, 16 games, 17 games all throughout his career. Now, is he a young man? No, he's not a young man. He'll be 33 by the time the season really gets going. So, I mean, he's not in his prime, but he's definitely not on the decline either. So he can still come to the Detroit Lions and be a significant contributor. And he's healthy. So I think that's the biggest thing too. Like, we get someone who can contribute, someone who's healthy, someone who's a problem, someone that has to be game planned with from following offensive coordinators that are coming to town. So I think he'd be a great signing, but he's not my number one. I would still prefer Zadarius.
Steve, I'm not going to drop a "Are you nuts?" I'm not.
I didn't say anything nuts.
But Zadarius Smith is. I want him for emotional reasons because I just feel like he really, really enjoyed his time here. He wants to be here. I felt like he fit in. I felt like the whole Rasheed Wallace situation, it just Dayton Cash style, like just Detroit rap. I don't want to say legend yet, but she'll probably end up being a Detroit rap legend.
I don't know.
Oh, she's definitely going to be a Detroit female rap legend in Detroit for sure. Like it's not going to be. There's no questions of that. But the bottom line for me is when I strip all that away and I just look at the football, Matthew Judon can do everything that Zadarius Smith can do, and some. And I'm not gonna say that he is my number one because I just got an emotional attachment, which is wrong. I'm just gonna say that. Like, this is a business, and normally I don't even get into these spaces where I can say, but I'm just gonna be honest. The only reason why Matthew Judon is not my number one is because I have an emotional attachment to Zadarius Smith, the story, and all of the things. But if I just strip all of that away and I'm just talking about football, listen, Matthew Judon can drop back into coverage. He's more athletic than Zadarius. He can just do all of the things. And when we talk about peak of careers, Matthew Judon's peak to me was better than Zadarius Smith's. Matthew Judon, I've watched him just take over football games. Like all the linebacker level, pass rush level, and in between. I've seen him take over football games. Don't get me wrong. Za'Darius has made huge impacts on football games, but Matthew Judon has taken over football games. Now, he's 32 years old. Are we looking at a guy who is going to take over football games right now? I don't think so. Maybe a game here and a game there, but he's not going to be able to consistently do that over a season. But you mentioned pass rush. I don't look at Aleem McNeil and Talik Williams and Levi Onwuzurike, these guys that are in the interior. I don't look at them as pass rushers. I look at them as pocket crushers. Right now, in the midst of crushing that pocket, can they shed a guy and go put some pressure on the quarterback or get a sack? They can, but I'm looking for those guys to consistently crush the interior of pockets. My pass rushers are those dudes on the outside, the Aiden Hutchinson and the dude Marcus Davenport or whoever's opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I think that Matthew Judon would be a phenomenal signing because, Steve, one thing I love about the United States, this is not only the United States, but the United States is where we are. Something happens on the roadway. My car gets a little bit banged up. It's no big deal. I pay my little deductible. Thing gets fixed. It's like brand new. It's insurance. Something goes down. Basement floods. Something happens. Insurance. This thing gets fixed up. It's like new. I need insurance for Marcus Davenport. I'm hoping, I'm praying that it goes like everyone is hoping that it goes. When he's out there, he is a force. But historically, he hasn't been out there. So because of that, listen, it's not me or you driving, Steve. It's Taj, my 17-year-old son, that's driving this vehicle right now. And we're talking about Marcus Davenport.
Get off the road.
You know what I'm saying? Taj is driving this thing. Shout out to Taj, man. You know I love you, dog. But hey, he's driving this thing right now. He's high risk. He's under 25. He's high risk. He just got that license. We need to make sure we got that insurance, and we need to make sure we got everything. Like, max that thing out, because it's going to be some bumps and bruises on this vehicle, and we need to be prepared for that situation. Steve, for those reasons, Matthew Judon or Za'Darius Smith, I need them. I got to have them. It's a non-negotiable. We got to get them in here because I don't want this thing to fall on Al Muhammad, Josh Paschal. I love Levi Onwuzurike. I love him.
We know you got a tattoo of him on your butt cheek, I'm pretty sure.
Pause. But don't be letting everybody know that. But I don't want this thing being tossed in their hands. Ahmed Muhammad, man. I love the guy. I love the story. We can't toss this thing on a rookie. We don't even know exactly what we got. Or not Muhammad Hassani. I apologize. But we can't toss this thing on a rookie, man, and just leave it to him, man, to be getting this thing tossed on his shoulders. We need a veteran presence as insurance. Now, Steve, the last thing that I'll say about this thing, and I'll leave it alone. Guys like Von Miller, guys like Matthew Judon, guys like even Za'Darius Smith, you don't get these guys on your team because they're going to be the guy that they were 5 years ago when they were 25 years old, 26, 27, when they're at the peak of their games. You get these guys on your team because these are guys who can offer you moments. When you're in that Super Bowl and you just need one play and they're scheming something up against this defense, what am I going to do if I'm an offensive coordinator? I'm going to tell you what you're not going to do is let that animal and Aiden Hutchinson out on me. I'm going to send a running back to block him. I'm going to send a tackle to block him. And I might have my guard peel off one of these interior guards and chip him. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be accounted for in a huge moment. In that moment, that is when Matthew Judon makes the sack of his life, wins us a Super Bowl. Like, that is why you got Za'Darius Smith. That is why you get Matthew Judon. That is why you get one of these guys, man, to solidify this offensive line. Make sure you have that insurance. So when a bad day happens, man, it's not a big deal, Steve. That's all I got on this thing, man. We got to get one of these guys. I'm pounding the table for it. Like, it's a non-negotiable. I'm not even asking people how they feel about it. I need it. I need it to happen.
Didn't you? I think you just recapped like pretty much everything I said from the end of the season until today. Insurance. You use the word insurance. I use the word contingency. When we were talking about signing Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles, we wanted to bump Marcus Davenport down to that second tier role. We talked about waves of pass rushers just so that you can't block one guy like Aiden Hutchinson. We talked about it in the draft with, hey, we want to get a second wave guy, a defensive end, just in case Marcus Davenport, not if, but when he gets hurt. Like, it's just the same song and dance. And the only one who's not hearing it is Brad Holmes. So I feel like is Marcus Davenport the guy that Brad Holmes wants to? Gosh, I almost said something really stupid and I would have been hammered, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Is Marcus Davenport who Brad Holmes wants to, go down with the ship if this defense isn't on par? Because that's what everyone's going to say. If Marcus Davenport gets hurt and you're trotting out the same old bodies of Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal, and it's just not working, and something happens to Hutch, he tweaks a hamstring in week 5 or something like that, and he's out for a game, we're going to be in the same damn boat we were in the last 2-3 seasons. Like, we've been talking about this position for 3 years. So if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm just not tying myself to Marcus Davenport defensively. Like, I know usually GMs are tied to the quarterback, and I'm by no means saying Brad Holmes is on a hot seat for Marcus Davenport at all. Let's get that straight. I know someone will twist those words, but am I making a little sense there, Will? Like, if we all see something, does Brad Holmes just look at this and say, oh, yeah, Marcus Davenport's playing 17 games? Because I'll tell you right now, I'll be flat out shocked if he plays more than 10. So I just don't understand why it's not being addressed. And as much as we love Hassanin, I don't think he's going to be ready as a rookie. I don't think he's going to be ready until his second year at best, unless I'm just flat out wrong. And his 6'2" frame, and he learns all types of pass rush techniques and moves. And, he can say great things when he's getting drafted and how he's ready to die. That's great. But, you still got to go out and play football. Talk is cheap. You still got to show up and produce. So I'm not putting a lot of eggs in Hassanin's basket until year 2. I need to see a little something, but I do love the kid. I love the story. I love the energy. I love the work ethic. I love everything about him, but I just don't understand why Brad Holmes hasn't addressed this already. And I know you're in your basement. I'm in my office. We just got done working our 9-to-5 jobs, and here we are talking football, and we're not in a front office for the NFL. So I understand the difference, but I just don't see why Brad Holmes, and I get it, Marcus Davenport's contract is very team friendly. There's no risk there. I understand all that. I understand the numbers. I just don't understand why he's the one that Brad Holmes is tying himself to. And if something happens when he gets hurt, I hope he doesn't. I don't wish injuries on anyone, but it's just a track record against him. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Will.
Steve, you said a couple of things that I really resonated with me. The first thing that I'll say is this, Steve. I don't know that Brad Holmes is necessarily just leveraging. I don't want to say his. I don't want to say anything too crazy. He's not leveraging his status as a GM and as a guy who everybody thinks makes very sharp GM moves on Marcus Davenport. I think there's some things that are already in the works. I said this before. Part of me still really believes this. Him and Zadarius Smith have a deal on the table, right? I part of me really believes that. And, it's one of those things. Part of me probably just wants to believe it too. But I just don't think that Brad, he's just too smart, man, to be heading blindly into this thing without some type of contingencies. I don't think that he's just too smart for that. Marcus Davenport isn't his own. Either he really believes in Muhammad, or he feels like Hassanin's going to be able to move faster than we thought, or he's going to play some games with this D-line and the pieces that we got when guys like Mekhi Wingo get back and Aleem McNeil, and maybe we're going to play big boy D-line or something weird. He's got something locked in to the works. So I'll say that first things first. But when you talked about that just now, when you spoke about that, all I could think about is this book that I read. It's called Never Split the Difference. And it's a book about negotiating, right? One of the things, and you didn't need to read the book for this, but Steve, when you negotiate with somebody, it's really hard to have tough negotiations when I know I have what you need, right? So, meaning if something was to happen to Marcus Davenport, and then we're out again, caught in the same situation as when Aiden was down. Now these teams know, hey, listen, you guys are about to march out Al Muhammad. You guys are about to bump Levi Onwuzurike from defensive tackle to playing major snaps on the end. You need me more than I need you. That price is going. I need more draft equity. I need more monies. I need more, right? But if you make the move now, one, when we're talking about free agents, or two, if you make a move with somebody when the situation isn't dire, when you already have pieces in play, that negotiation is a lot easier. That for those reasons, I just don't understand why Brad isn't icing this thing with a little bit of insurance. So I have to assume that a Zadarius deal or a Matthew Judon deal or a Von Miller deal or something has already kind of been tentatively talked about, because he's always on the phone making contact with these agents and wheeling and dealing and stuff. I gotta hope and pray that something is already down on these books. And I'm hoping it's either Zadarius Smith or Matthew Judon, because I think either one of the two of those guys really makes me feel a warm and fuzzy that's scary for the rest of the league, man, because, hey, one of these guys get banged up for a week, the other one's just going to be a plug and play, and then we're still looking at the depth pieces coming in behind him. I don't want to see, no offense to Al Muhammad, I don't want to see him as the starting guy opposite Aiden Hutchinson, though. I want to see him as a guy who's getting 10, 15 reps a game where he can go out and rush the passer fresh while Zadarius is catching a break real quick. You know what I mean? That's what I'm looking for, Steve. I want to see Marcus Davenport out there doing his thing, and then when he's not out there, it's Matthew Judon coming in and doing his thing, or Zadarius Smith. That's a scary defense for the Detroit Lions. I like everything else we got out there. I love Talik Williams. I love DJ Reader. Obviously, I love Aiden Hutchinson. I love Anceloni. I love Jack Campbell. I love Derek Barnes. Hey, we already know how I feel about these safeties, BB and Kirby Joseph. We got 27 corners that I like, starting off with DJ Reed and Terry and Arnold. Steve, it's problems everywhere else. If we get this one piece and double down on it,
it's almost like you want to say the term waves of pass rushers. Will, it's almost like you want to say it, but splitting the difference. The only thing Steve Perkins splits is aces and eights at a blackjack table. All right. And if you don't hit your 16s, get off my table. All right. All right. That's just the facts. All right. That's the only thing I split, aces and eights. Double down on your 11 and 10. I don't care what the dealer's showing. All right. We're gambling, baby. I think you're right. There is a deal in place. I think I'm going to try to put myself in the mindset as Zadarius Smith. Obviously, we're about roughly 6 weeks away from training camp starting for the Detroit Lions, because we get that extra week with the Hall of Fame game. Is he sitting there waiting for a team to have an injury in some type of workouts, and maybe he goes there? Is he waiting on that team to be the Lions and he wants a major role with more money? I don't know, but I look at how the Lions treated Zadarius Smith like an ultimate professional. He came, got traded from the Cleveland Browns. What's the first thing they did, Will? They sat him for a week because he hadn't had his bye week in Cleveland. They gave him the rest. Dan Campbell, players coach, he knows that time off and rest is the most important thing. If I'm Zadarius Smith, and I'm not saying like, oh man, Brad gave me a week off or Dan gave me a week off, I have to sign here. Like, I'm not saying that, but I think it's something to consider, that this is an organization that looks out for its players. This is an organization that's ready for another deep playoff run and hopefully a Super Bowl and a trophy. Would you rather play for the Detroit Lions, who have already proven to take care of you in the past, or do you want to go play for a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are going to be at the bottom of the barrel, or the Tennessee Titans, or whoever's going to be at the bottom of the league? You're at the end of your career. I understand you want to get that big payday, that one final check before you ride off into the sunset in your 30s and never have to work again in your life. Trust me, I'm jealous of it. I wish that was me, but I would probably lean towards chasing that one thing that I don't have on my resume, and that's a Super Bowl. It's the most hardest trophy to win. And Detroit has a pretty good chance. If we stay fully healthy throughout the year, I think we'll be one of the favorites. I know that's not possible. There's going to be bumps and bruises. There's going to be people who miss the game. But if I'm Zadarius Smith, I just look at how this organization has treated me the past year. I think they've handled him the best way possible. So, I mean, if I have to donate, I'll give a little bit of a I can't call it a hometown discount, but a respect discount. I would do that if I was Za'Darius, but maybe I'm just being a Detroit Lions slappy. I don't know, Will.
I mean, the bottom line is these guys that we're talking about, they're probably on their last 2-year deals. If we're being honest, if they can get one, teams are they want to give them 1-year deals. That's just the reality. That's what teams are hoping for when they're negotiating with these guys. They're hoping for 1-year deals. So this is probably going to be the last season that they can hope for getting 2-year deals. So for those reasons, man, I get the tough negotiations, and sometimes this thing just comes down to a business, man. Za'Darius Smith needs to do what he needs to do for himself personally on the business end of it. I don't think by any means he's the type of person, from what I've seen so far, that's negotiating in a way to where he is just trying to be a hard ass with the Detroit Lions. I think he wants to be here. And I think it's one of those things too, similar to that running back who left here and did absolutely nothing. I think he went out there to the Saints, and there was a negotiation going on, and he thought personally that because he scored all of those 1-yard touchdowns that he was worth a little bit more than the Detroit Lions were willing to pay. So we had to let him go.
He broke Barry Sanders' record, Will. How could you say that? He was Barry Sanders 2.0.
Yeah.
That's what
some people shouldn't be allowed to tweet sometimes, or whatever it's called, X or whatever it is. But
Trump has to put a ban on a tariff on microphones and thumbs next. It's got to come.
You're not wrong, man, because some of the stuff that comes out, it's just wild. And guys, yes, somebodies really did tweet those things. But the bottom line is, man, the Detroit Lions evaluate these guys. They come up with a price that they're willing to pay, projecting the things that they're going to need to take care of in the future. They lay that on the table for the players, and sometimes they don't like it. I think there's been some tough conversations that's been had with Alex Anzalone as well. I don't think that it's anything that's causing him to not want to be here, but I think it's just tough to hear sometimes when you think that you're worth a little bit more and a team is telling you that they have you in this area. It's a tough conversation. It's a tough situation, but the Detroit Lions do the right thing. They rip the Band-Aid off. They kick the door in. They tell you the truth, and then let the chips fall where they're made. That's all that you can hope for. And I think that's why even when they give bad news, nobody goes out and says that they don't respect what goes on here. I think that's the situation now. We're kind of at a standstill where Za'Darius is holding his ground, but he really hasn't signed anywhere else because he doesn't want to be anywhere else, right? But there's these people out here too for Brad. Hey, if Za'Darius signs somewhere, maybe that gives him a little bit more pressure to go after a guy like Judon or Von Miller. Von Miller hasn't signed anywhere, has he?
I thought he stayed in Buffalo on like another 1-year deal, didn't he? I could be wrong. I don't know.
I thought he was still a free agent, but maybe he did. But it doesn't necessarily have to be him either. But I know he's got a pool of guys that he's holding in the same little melting pot. And maybe if some of these guys that are veteran guys that haven't signed yet sign somewhere, maybe that will put a little bit more pressure on him to go sign one of these guys. But as long as they're similar to the draft, there's a pool of guys that he's holding in the same pot is available. Maybe, he's
Von Miller got released on March 9th.
Yeah, so maybe he's not feeling as pressed to hurry up and make a move, man. But I'm really hoping for the emotional reasons that it's Za'Darius Smith. But I'd be very happy if Matthew Judon came to the Detroit Lions, man. Again, for those of you that probably haven't even watched the video, a lot of people watched it or watch them for 10 minutes and then come to their conclusions, some less than that. But Matthew Judon is not a guy that I'm expecting to come in and be a world beater and do all types of crazy stuff. But he is somebody that I think could benefit greatly from having a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, another guy like DJ Reader, another guy like Talik Williams. Because if Talik Williams is commanding a double team, if DJ Reader is commanding a double team, like they're having to double down and block these guys, they're tough outs. And then Aiden's doing his thing. The guy opposite of him has to be doing their thing if they can win a one-on-one matchup, man. Somebody has to be in a one-on-one matchup. It could be a scary situation for teams coming into Detroit. The last thing that I'll say about Judon that I noticed in watching his 302 snaps today is he rushes with the level of awareness with where the QB is going to try to escape. So a lot of the times he's baiting a guy on the inside, knowing that the QB is going to spin out, and then he meets him on the spin out. He baits the guy inside, or he baits the guy outside and then jumps inside, knowing the QB is going to try to step up in the pocket. He has a very good feel for what these quarterbacks are doing, and he does a great job of boxing them in. When I think of guys like the quarterbacks that are going to be coming in, Jaden Daniels was running around like crazy. We've said it. Jalen Hurts. The list goes on. Lamar Jackson. You need guys like this to be able to corral these quarterbacks that can use their feet as weapons. I'm sick of seeing the Detroit Lions struggle with it. This would be a step in the right direction to help us stop it.
Got anything else for tonight?
Last thing, if you watched it this long, the kids will kill me if I don't say anything. I saved it for the end so I didn't bore you with non-Detroit Lions stuff. My boy Kingston won MVP today. My girl Roxy, regional high jump champion for
Is that a sloth? What is that thing?
I don't even know what this is. I think it's supposed to be a Mustang, I believe, or I don't know. They're the Mustangs, but
looks like a type of autistic bobcat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out to the kids, man. They're doing their thing, man. So I wanted to shout them out.
We are up to 16 Super Den members. All right. We are more than halfway there. We get to 30. Boy, this is a beautiful helmet. I'm looking right at it. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is. It's going to remain a surprise. Take me for my word. I've never lied to you guys before. Stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.